I've said before that the inaugural year of G.I. Joe, 1982, really feels like a proof of concept more than anything else. A small assortment of 11 carded figures made it to retail, as well as a small carport's worth of vehicles and drivers, and one mail-away special, My Boy in Blue, Cobra Commander. All of the figures, all of the characters introduced in 1982 are very much rooted in real-world military specialties and iconography, with very few fantastical flourishes. Even the Laser Trooper Flash is still pretty grounded in the grand scheme of things. But when you compare these designs even to figures released 2 years later, they can seem a little dull. I mean, there's only so many ways you can make Olive Drab not, well, drab. However, thanks to their uniformity and dedication to post-Vietnam realness, the original Joe team looks like, well, just that, a team. A strike force, if you will. That's very much how they're presented in the original Marvel comic series. The original team of 13 Joes are all hand-selected by Uncle Sam as they're the best of the best and go on the most dangerous missions to fight Cobra, as opposed to the Sunbow cartoon where it is its own branch of the US military with an insane black budget and full of the biggest goddamn American heroes you've ever seen.
G.I. Joe had emphatically planted an American flag in Cobra's ass.
Now, if I've learned anything from watching endless reruns of the original 60s Mission Impossible, it's that Martin Landau is a total badass. But if I've learned anything else, it's that when you're assembling a crack team of specialists, no matter the job, espionage, assassination, or robbery, you need a getaway driver. And G.I. Joe is no different. If the Joe team's in a jam, if they're in a pinch, then your Johnny on the spot is Clutch. Rolling in with the first wave of G.I. Joe in 1982, Clutch is the pack-in vehicle driver for the VAMP Jeep, one of the first, foremost, and most iconic G.I. Joe vehicles of the early years. And if you're ready for a hard-driving road trip across America, then be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, ring that bell for notifications, because here at PDX Toy Collective, the only way to live is in cars.
Nothing seems right in cars.
Now, beginning with Clutch, he was originally released as the pack-in vehicle driver exclusively with the VAMP. You could get him later as a Hasbro Direct Mail-Away, and he was revised in a tan color scheme and packed in with the VAMP 2. The VAMP 2 is neat, but nothing real special and is a little boring in my opinion. Nowhere near as cool as the Stinger. And there you go, there's my review of the VAMP 2, so don't ask me about it in the comments. Anyway, Clutch. By no means is Clutch a bad figure. He's just a little drab in the grand scheme of things. Much like a lot of the early Joes in the first 13, he is green. And he shares a lot of the same tooling and parts as some of the other Joes. Considering this is the first year of an untested toy line, the budgets were slim, to say the least. Infamously, Snake Eyes was cast in all black so they'd have enough paint budget to give Stalker his camo and his mustache. And here we have the parts reused from Rock and Roll and Breaker, most notably that beardy head. Now, Rock and Roll is Malibu blonde and Breaker is brunette. Clutch is jet black, and despite having no deviations in the face sculpt, the color choice does do a good job of separating them and giving them a little bit of character. Though I will say the fact that Clutch's beard is a glossy black does make me think a little bit of Steven Seagal's Intamin Donuts beard, and that's also kind of reinforced by his file card, which states that Clutch uses motor oil to grease his hair. Ew. Now, you're probably noticing that Clutch looks a little bit different compared to the other Joes on this channel, and that's in part because he's an original 1982 straight arm figure. See, while the G.I. Joes were some of the most popular O-ring figures of the time, they weren't the first. Those would be Microman or the Micronauts from the mid-70s. Takara's Microman toy line is some of the most impressive engineering of the time, and realizing that in conjunction with needing a space toy line to compete with Star Wars, Mego imported them in the late 70s. Mego would then co-opt that engineering for production on US exclusive figures like the Micronauts Aliens, as well as their TV and movie licenses, including the Black Hole, Chips, and the Dukes of Hazzard. And all of these figures from the Micronauts down would have straight up and down 90-degree elbows in their articulation suite. And in 1982, G.I. Joe was no different. It was just the style of the time. However, by 1983, Hasbro had developed Swivel Arm Battle Grip, the latest and greatest in military technology. See, as basic as it sounds now, adding a bicep swivel to the articulation suite really did revolutionize action figures, and the inaugural 1982 wave of Joes was re-released in '83 with this new articulation point. By no means are the 1982 straight arm figures bad, but they are an interesting footnote in the series development. They're a bit of a novelty. and most collectors will gravitate towards their 83 revisions. Despite not being as articulated as later Joes, Clutch still gets the job done, and when it comes to accessories, Clutch includes a helmet, because the Joes believe in safety first. I guess you could also count the gas cans as accessories for like world building and dioramas, like, oh no, the US is in the middle of another oil crisis. Thanks, President Carter. Guess Clutch has to go siphon gas off the HISS tank for the next mission.
Start the bus, Otto! Start the bus!
Damn, I shouldn't have eaten the mint first.
Well, on that note, we might as well get into the Jeep. The VAMP, or Vehicle: Attack Dash Multi-Purpose, that is not intuitive, is an off-roader based on the real-world Lamborghini Cheetah, which was a US-Italian co-production meant to create a fast, powerful, and sleek vehicle for the military. The Cheetah was none of these things, and it was quietly shelved. However, Lamborghini's designers would tinker around with the concept a little bit more and release the LM002 SUV in the mid-80s. So I guess technically speaking, the VAMP isn't a Jeep, it's an Italian SUV off-road vehicle, but let's be honest here, we're still gonna call it a Jeep for simplicity's sake. Now, the VAMP is a two-seater with a very, very open roll cage to protect, quote-unquote, its driver. I see why Clutch wears the helmet now. But it doesn't take away from how cool it is. It's a sweet ride. The Lambo heritage gives it a unique and dynamic profile you wouldn't see on your regular old Willys Jeep. Add on to that, the VAMP has a very large set of guns mounted on its back. Unfortunately, you can't have another Joe man them like the HISS tank turret, but they do look good, and they do have an action feature. Toggling this little slider on the side makes the barrel shift up and down with a pom-pom action. It's not the most dynamic action feature, but it does get the job done. Kind of like Clutch. The VAMP does have one more play feature, and that's the fact that it can tow some of the artillery from 1982. It does add quite a bit to the length of the vehicle, and it's a little awkward to hook up, but it's a nice addition and does add a little bit to the world building of G.I. Joe. The other thing that's nice about the VAMP is that it's a solid mid-scale vehicle. It's not a massive Titanic piece like Rolling Thunder or the Sky Striker or even the Mobat, and by no means is it small and imposing like, say, the Silver Mirage. It's a nice, manageable size, and you get a lot of good play features for that size. And while you can't get all your Joes to pile into the VAMP, you can get just enough of a crew together to go cruising like it's American Graffiti. And believe me, Clutch is definitely the kind of dude who'd get up to some trouble on Saturday night. Now, a lot of the early Joe file cards were a bit sparse in detail, mostly just giving you a quick overview of their military skills and specialties, but there'd be at least one or two sentences near the end to give them some sort of character, and Clutch is no different. Quote, "He greases his hair with motor oil, rarely shaves, and chews on the same toothpick for months. Clutch still calls women chicks." And this, combined with his characterization in the Marvel Comics, he's definitely the kind of dude who thinks he's way hotter than he is, you know? He ain't no William Riker despite having the same beard. But just like Commander William T. Riker, make no doubt about it, Clutch is a skirt chaser, though luckily not to the levels of Lieutenant Falcon where he had to go to court over it. Alright, I am gonna go on a tangent real quick because, like, maybe my vocabulary needs to be updated or something, but I don't think chick is necessarily the worst thing to say in common conversation. Like, I'm sure they were trying to clean it up a little bit for the file card, but I think saying, like, broad is way more misogynistic. Like, calling a woman a broad is much more demeaning, at least in my opinion. Plus, I can think of way worse things to call both women and men, like or uncooked sausage.
That was really bad.
Now, in the Sunbow cartoon, Clutch didn't get a lot of play, mostly showing up in the background. You can tell which characters the Sunbow writers liked playing with and which ones were just crowd filler. I mean, hell, Shipwreck is basically the main character of the animated series at a point. Now, that isn't to say Clutch didn't get at least one bizarre adventure under his belt, and damn is it a doozy. Now, before we get into it, technically speaking, Worlds Without End is a Steeler-focused episode, but Clutch is part of our intrepid crew of Joes, so it counts. Worlds Without End is a two-part episode that sees Cobra in pursuit of a new fantastical MacGuffin, the Matter Transmuter, a device that transforms any form of matter into another form of matter. Sci-fi alchemy, if you will.
I have succeeded in creating gold, pure gold.
Are you sure?
Yes, my lord. cold.
Percy, it's green. Cobra has sent the Dreadnoks to find this device, which is a bad idea because the Dreadnoks couldn't find their asses with both hands in a roadmap, but they're determined to finish the job. Zartan, being the only member of the crew with 2 brain cells to rub together, manages to find the blueprints for the transmuter and tries to escape, but the Joes are able to intercept him, with Flint shooting Zartan down, and Clutch coming in, Clutch grabbing the blueprints. The Dreadnoks escape to fail another day, and the Joe team regroups to formulate a new plan on how to protect the matter transmuter. Now, while all of this has been happening, Steeler has been going on and on, complaining to anybody who will listen, anybody who's in earshot, or anybody who will give him the time of day about how much he hates working for Uncle Sam and how much it's ruining his life. He's lost his girlfriend, he has no hobbies, he has no nightlife, and he is this close to putting in his 2 weeks' notice. Jesus, Steeler. I thought tank drivers were made of sterner stuff. At least that's what I learned watching Fury.
We've been talking about the same dumb shit for 3 years. You know I'll stand on it. You're trying to rile me up.
Anyway, the Joes are put in charge of escorting the matter transmuter and its creators to a secure facility off-site. But it turns out these scientists aren't what they seem, because they are in fact the Baroness and Zartan in disguise. I guess they were already planning to steal it, and the Joe team just kind of happened to be there. We get a big fight, a big punch-up, and a big fracas on a speeding train, as all parties fight for the matter transmuter, which eventually leads to a tussle between Steeler and Copperhead, the latter of which uses the transmuter to try and kill the Joes, but a quick attack from Steeler causes it to misfire.
Give me those blueprints!
No way!
Dirty deeds done that cheap.
Oh, what happened?
The ensuing chaos of the blast somehow managed to transport our motley crew of Joes to another world. Also, it might have killed Copperhead, because I'm not sure about this, but I don't know if we ever see him again after this episode. In this strange new world, the Joes find themselves without aid or allies, because this is a world where Cobra won. That's right, our high-strung buddy, Cobra Commander, lucked out and sunk that 3-pointer and killed G.I. Joe. Cobra has now formed the first global empire and rules with an iron fist, with the Dreadnoks now acting as a brutal police force hunting down our renegade Joes. This is a lot, to say the least. Steeler has been having a real rough week already, and this ain't helping. Added to that, he was also bit by some weird extra-dimensional mosquito, and you've got the recipe for a Joe who's about to go AWOL, and that's exactly what Steeler does, running out into the middle of the desert, losing his shit. Grunt pursues, trying to help the poor guy out, but it seems like it's all for naught. While Grunt and Steeler are running through the desert, the other Joes have been forced to split up. Clutch, Lady J, and Footloose have all been captured by Destro, while Flint, Barbecue, and Airtight have been taken into Dread Cop custody. Still running through the desert, Steeler and Grunt eventually stumble across a mass grave with some pretty gnarly skeletons. I mean, these guys didn't just die, they were fucked up. And upon examining these corpses, like any good adventure game, Grunt rifles through their pockets and steals their dog tags, only to realize they've stumbled across their own bodies. Yes, these are the skeletons of Grunt, Clutch, and Steeler from this world. Understandably, stumbling across your own dead body is a little shocking. Some would say mind-shattering even, and Steeler is really working his way to that Section 8.
People are under a lot of stress, Bradley.
Until a mysterious woman arrives in a hiss tank. This is Layla, the Baroness's personal assistant in this universe, and oh my god! Are all Cobra uniforms this cheeky? Good lord, who designed these? Was it Baroness? Was it Destro? Was it Cobra Commander? Yeah, it was probably Cobra Commander. Anyway, the Baroness has a vested interest in Steeler, and she wants him. And she'll take Grunt too, because, you know, he's there. See, somehow, in this fucked up, upside down, topsy-turvy enigma of a world, the Baroness and Steeler were in an absolute whirlwind romance, and either she became a double agent for the Joes, or maybe she had her own machinations and Steeler was along for the ride. It doesn't matter. The point is, they would do anything for each other. And the Baroness was heartbroken when the Joe team was killed and Steeler was among them. Now that she has Steeler from another world, she can rekindle their romance, and Steeler is taken back by this, to say the least, but I think he's handling it pretty well, all things considered. Also, it's pretty funny, in the alternate universe, the Baroness apparently got LASIK and she doesn't need her prescription peepers anymore. She kind of looks weird without them, to be honest. Anyway, it seems like the Baroness this entire time has been stoking the flames of civil war between Destro and Cobra Commander, and the arrival of the Parallel Joe team is just what she needs to crank up the heat. See, it doesn't matter if it's a baseline universe or an alternate universe, the Joes are dynamic go-getters, and they're gonna fuck up Cobra's day no matter what, and that's exactly what they do. While plotting their escape, Footloose, Lady J, Flint, Clutch, all those cats just end up destroying the Cobra world infrastructure because that's what they do. The Joe team is able to regroup, now with the Baroness as an ally, but they're in a very tumultuous position as both Cobra Commander and Destro are in hot pursuit. And the threat of a unified Joe team might unify those two factions. But the Baroness takes it upon herself to stoke the flames of civil war even more, as she goes to Cobra Commander and tells him that all of this devastation, all of the Joe team's plotting and planning, was Destro's fault. They were all Destro's machinations. And she goes to Destro and tells him the reverse, that the Joe team's destruction is all the responsibility of Cobra Commander, thus starting the Cobra Civil War. At least, the Cobra Civil War in another world. As the battle lines are drawn, the Joes with the Baroness in tow make their escape and are able to find a magical portal back to their own world. How convenient. As the Joes file through the magical portal back home, the Baroness is left melancholy as she realizes she has no home now. She can't go with the Joes to their world, they already have a Baroness. And she can't stay here as it'll be quickly found out that she was the one who incited the Civil War. Realizing that she has no friends, no family, no allies, no love, Steeler decides to stay behind in the alternate world and be the Baroness's rock. His buddy Grunt and Clutch, hey, the guy the video's about, also decide to stay with Steeler and the Baroness because together they'll form a new team. They'll solve problems, they'll help people, they'll put things right that once went wrong. And deciding just to go with the flow, Flint, Lady J, and the other Joes decide to go back to their own world and call it a day.
Lady J, jump for it.
You're back!
I guess Flint just lists Grunt, Clutch, and Steeler as MIA. I mean, I have no idea what that paperwork looks like. You write down trapped in an alternate universe? I mean, is that a valid excuse for not coming to work? I have no idea. All I can assume is Grunt, Clutch, and Steeler's files are locked away in the same occult filing cabinet as Agent Philip Jeffries, Agent Chester Desmond, and Agent Dale Cooper. They're all Blue Rose cases, all right? That's all I know. It's kind of crazy that, like, 3 of the original founding members of G.I. Joe are just in an alternate universe and we never see them again, except for that one time in the G.I. Joe movie. That doesn't count because it's background filler. But the point is they're just gone and nobody really cares. Not like in a negative way. They just think like, oh yeah, Grunt, Steeler, and Clutch, they're setting things right that once went wrong. I believe in them. And we have no idea what the hell's going on in that alternate universe. They could be like in Mad Max Road Warrior rules for all it matters.
Seriously? Aren't you overreacting a bit?
Welcome to the apocalypse, Mr. Squidward. I hope you like leather.
I don't know, Clutch might be a bit of a hound dog, but he's a good member of the team. He's reliable. He's the driver. He's everything you need. He's not the lead by any means. Obviously, that was Hawk's job back in the day, Shipwreck's job in the cartoon, and Duke's job if you're boring. But he's rock steady, and that's what I like about him. He's an integral part of the Motley crew. He doesn't take the spotlight, but he's definitely one of those guys that you're glad to have on your team. Plus, I kind of like the idea of Grunt, Steeler, and Clutch just all hanging out, going on their own, doing their own adventures. And sure, the Baroness from another world can tag along, or maybe just some other person. Maybe it can be a little bit of like an A-team dynamic where they go out and just solve problems. So I guess that's G.I. Joe Renegades now that I think about it. The point is Clutch is solid. Clutch is a good core member of the original 13 G.I. Joe team, and the VAMP Jeep is a pretty integral part of the G.I. Joe armory and carport. It's a very beloved vehicle for good reason, and Clutch is just there for the ride.